Good morning. What time is it? It's almost 11 a.m. here on Manchester's rainy Sunday morning, and I just needed to test some settings in my OBS, my Open Broadcasting System Service software, which I use to live stream to the Twitch platform. And the reason I've made some settings changes is because of the amount of work that my machine was having to do, my MacBook Pro, to encode and stream a full 4K monitor sized canvas. So what I've done is I've switched to another tiling window manager, Amethyst, just to see how it works, because it allows me to put stuff in the sort of the top left hand corner. So I'm looking at my screen right now, and I can use Amethyst to divide that screen up into different chunks. It's a really nice set of layouts. In fact, let me move to the standard, the main scene in OBS. I think I'm there right now, right? What's going on? Oh, sorry. Let me move to the main screen in OBS. And if I look at, I'll just show you Amethyst. It's on GitHub, and unlike Chunk WM, where there's been no maintenance on it for a while, because the author, reasonably is now working on a new version, completely new, called Yabai, which I can't run on this work laptop. So yeah, it's a tiling window manager, and I'm having a look at that, and it has different layouts that I can cycle through. Okay, so there's tall, right, and so on. So I'm trying this out now. All I'm doing is encoding and streaming the top left quarter of my screen, which is nicely a 1080p display, so 1920 by 1080. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about to do this as a little bit of a test anyway was something I didn't get round to on the stream on Friday, which was to do with, and I'm going to bring this up here, which was to do with the way that we compared the original JSON file, or the season, the JSON formatted season file that came from the tutorial we were talking about. If you're not sure what we're talking about, have a look at the previous stream. Oh, in fact, what I need to do really is change this. It's not testing anymore. It's sort of episode 39, looking at process substitution, and that will become clear shortly. Okay, so what we had was inside of this folder we had new.json and toot.json, and what we did was then use vimdiff to compare those two files, and we noticed that the difference was that the way the cardinality was expressed was using a different keyword, different property, target max versus max. So that's all fine. So let's quit out of there, and those files we created by using JQ to pretty print, to format those, and then we saved them into files, toot.json and new.json, and then we used vimdiff. Now I knew this would happen as soon as I started streaming. Michelle has just come back from the gym, so I'm just going to tell her that I'm streaming. I can hear the door opening now. Hey Shell, I'm just doing a bit of a live stream test, so I'll be finished in about 15 minutes. So what we did was create those files, these sort of intermediate files, which we don't really need anymore. So there was a little bit untidy in the way that we had to do that. We had to create files and then use those files with vimdiff. Now, a few weeks ago, I discovered, just by accident, something called, let's just move up to the focus here. Oops, no, that's the wrong, isn't it? Into the focus. I discovered something called process substitution. And process substitution, there's a nice Wikipedia entry for it. It's a shell scripting thing, so it's a language thing within the shell. And the Wikipedia page describes it really nicely. It allows the input or output of a command to appear as a file. I mean, one of the amazing things about Unix style operating systems is that it just, it just works. For my mind, at least, it just works absolutely beautifully. It goes against, it goes completely. The flow goes completely with, the way I think. What happens when I do a live stream? Somebody comes through the door and then I get a phone call as well. Nothing all morning. Anyway, I wanted to explore the use of process substitution so that we don't have to create these intermediate files. Let me show you what I mean. So what we did, let me just bring that back again. Where is it? There it is. Let me bring that back. And I'll actually remove the toot.json and the new.json. And instead, we'll say, well, let's just remind ourselves of how we created those. What we did was we said JQ, and we piped the file in, API business partner.json. That was the file we got from the tutorial. And the output is, of course, goes to standard out. But what we did was we said, well, let's put that into toot.json. Okay, and in the same way, we use JQ to pretty print in a standard way the one that we created in our converter project. That's also called API Business Partner JSON, and that was the one we used EDMX to CSN to convert from EDMX to JSON, formatted CSN. And of course, that also comes out with a converted or pretty printed file, which we also then said, okay, create into the file new.json. So instead, what we can do with process substitution is, and then we use vimdiff against those two files. Process substitution allows us to take the standard out of a process and treat it as though it was a file. So we can say vimdiff, and the syntax for process substitution in bash is this, okay? And let's do that again, because we've got two files. So the first one is the output of what we've just done, JQ API business partner.json, and the second one is JQ taking in the input of the same file name in the conv directory. And there we go. So we haven't created any intermediate files. There's nothing to clean up afterwards. We didn't even have to create the files in the first place. And notice here as well that this signifies that this file is not writable, because actually it's not a file. It's a process, or it's a special file descriptor /dev/fd63 and dev fd62. You'll notice references to these file descriptors in Unix when you look into a bit more detail about process substitution. So anyway, that was just a really quick addition to the live stream on Friday, to episode 38. This is episode 39. Let's count it as an episode. Let's just quit out of there. And finally, actually, it's worth just noting. It's worth noting that I'm still not used to these. There we go. I'm still not used to the key switch, keyboard combinations to switch the windows around in this Amethyst. If we look at process substitution, it first appeared in 1988 in the Corn shell. Now, the wonderful thing about the Corn shell, or an interesting thing about the Corn shell, is that it was written by David Corn, and I first came across David in a picture with an awesome t-shirt, which I think we may want to have as one of our hands-on SAP Dev t-shirts. Go away or I will replace you with a very small shell script. Anyway, on that note, that was it. Really, really short. Thanks for watching, by the way. That was 10 minutes. That was okay. And I'll see you next time. SAP Tech at Barcelona this coming week. So we may or may not have a live stream, depending on if we can find the time and a quiet space. But until then, have a good Sunday.